Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It is one of the most uncomfortable things that we as humans deal with, and that is change. There's always change around us. We have to embrace it. Right away, I hear the lyrics of a song that came out in the mid-'70s by David Bowie called Changes, and it goes like this. Changes, turn and face the strange. Changes. We're going to navigate that today with somebody that looks at things through the eyes of science. He's had many eureka moments in his career. He's done so much, from teaching to experiments to even writing, speaking. He's got a fantastic memoir, and he's back with us. Grant Venerable is on the program. Welcome back, Grant. How are you doing today?
Fine. How are you, Steve?
Very well, very well. And this pretty much picks up from what we talked about recently. You're in the middle of change. You're in the middle of moving, cross country, if you will. And that's a big change. Definitely is.
I'm gonna my camera's not, so I'm directly looking at the screen. So I'm gonna do a little reading here to get the momentum going of what we have to talk about. Namely, the first thing is, what is race? And why is there controversy around race? It's basically a false debate. Why? The Supreme Court has never defined race, at least not in any intelligible, rational way. I think they rely on decisions of other courts, lower courts, but they've never said anything definitive about what is race. So now the White House, as previous White Houses, have asked various constituencies and agencies to either that they can utilize race or not utilize race in making decisions about, if they're a university, about whom to admit or whom to hire to teach. And these words, these confusing labels, affirmative action and DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, turned out to be the shibboleths and the interesting ridiculousness I felt the moment I passed my PhD oral examination at the University of Chicago back in 1970, when I was assured by professors, well, you know, we've had issues in this country, and people of certain races have been favored over people of other races. And you should do well because you're now being invited into academia on a fair and equitable basis. And my remark was, I don't need that. I mean, I'm so good. I mean, I have proven myself in one of the greatest universities in the world. There's no question. And I don't feel that will be an issue for me. So what is it about race? Well, is it something visible or is it invisible? Is it a visible phenotype with features that seem to come from different parts of the world? Or is it an affinity label that people declare for themselves, or they get assigned it by the proper government agency? Those are still the confusion of the day because they've never been cleared up.
It's concerning that I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just still trying to process how the government doesn't define what race is. You know, we've heard this word since we were kids. We have a picture of what it is, but there's no clear governmental definition from what I'm hearing from you.
There's no definition, and there needs to be, and that definition is simple. If you were born a human being, you're in the human race, right? Period. That's all there is. Now, people will say, well, that's obviously ridiculous because you look at me and I have this certain coloration. It's not the normal accepted long time coloration. I had certain features that come from ancestors. My ancestry comes from 3 different continents, and they're all represented. And my brother and sister all represent them in different ways. So our family confuses people all the time. And so we get the question, well, what are you? And you must be part this and part that. Now let me make a statement. My belongings, all my worldly goods, are somewhere between Georgia, where I presently live and won't be living for another after a few days, and between here and the Southern California high desert. So we're headed for a whole nother adventure. The venture of the Venerable children, now adults in senior age. We were born, the 3 of us, our names Grant, the eldest, Linda, the middle child, and Lloyd, the younger child. We were born within a period of 30 months. Now that's pretty quick to be having, for one mother to be having children. And there were personal justifications for that on our mother's part. She did not feel, with a certain unidentifiable illness that she had, that she needed to have all 3 of her children as quickly as possible so they could be in each other's lives as much as possible, for as long as she would exist. And she did exist until 1950, when the youngest of us was 5 and I was 8. Well, that's part of the story. We had a wagon. I don't even know if children know what wagons are, but a wagon is something you can sit in, you can carry groceries in. And my mother would put the 3 of us in a wagon, and she would dress us in similar looking clothes. And people thought we were triplets.
Wow.
Now, this comes down to the issue of race again, but in a more enlightened, interesting way. Because my mother would, instead of driving the car, heavens forbid, she would drag us in this wagon behind her. And she'd gracefully walk the 1/4 mile up to Vermont Avenue near the University of Southern California campus and do her shopping. So, various kids would carry bags from the markets. And she would pass by people along the way who looked at this interesting sight of this woman who was a dark brown, reddish brown skinned woman with dark, straight hair and a braid that was straight down her back. And her children looked all different kinds of expressions of being human. Well, people would stop her and ask, well, are they triplets? And she would just kind of smile and not really comment. But anyway, what is their racial label? Oh, yes, she must be Indian. She looks like an Apache Indian, dark-skinned Apache Indian. But her kids are from light to the oldest kid who's a darker color. All this refers to what I'm talking about. The Venerable children as a primary identifier. We are culturally really more accurately identifiable when people would say, are they triplets? Well, they were in a cultural sense that developed in Ireland. And that was in the sense that 3 kids that were born within a close, compact time period had the name all over Europe and the world as being, oh, they're Irish triplets. I just learned that fact a week ago, realizing that's the closest that it got to anything like ethnicity or race. But that takes us into a higher form of thinking, which is where I want our conversation to be, about identifiers. And that was our identifier. Were these interesting kids, Irish triplets. So now we're all gathering in our senior years in the Southern California desert to be able to perform a mission in higher education. And one of the first things we want to be addressing is the matter of race, clarifying what it means, especially what it does not mean. Namely, it's impossible to know race. And if the White House wants universities to demonstrate that they're not using race, the White House has to tell universities what race is, how to recognize it, so that universities can say, oh, well, we're using or we're not using what you're talking about, but just be clear about what you're talking about. Number one, race, as we've known it, is an illusion. It's purely established the way it is to serve the interests of the people who are in power. And I'm not trying to be abstract or facetious at all. I'm just saying every nation has a power group, and they're a very small elite minority of that nation, that region, wherever they are. And they find ways to classify the citizens to reinforce their power over all citizens. Today, it comes down more to power is money. And the more money that you can accrue, the more power you have. So that's what really is at the back of our elections. You can actually influence how people vote by where you spend your money to get voters convinced to vote for you. Now, that might be a good place to start here, particularly when I say race in its scientific meaning is your gene pool that you've evolved from, that you've inherited from all of those people from wherever they are, gave to however you appear today as a human being. So if we could deal with that, we can make it.
It's funny in processing all of this, Grant, even growing up, I'd hear these three words: race, color, creed, race, color, creed.
Right.
I just took it for granted what it meant. But now I'm seeing it. Race is really undefined. Like you said, we're in the human race. Color, I got that one. Creed, usually defined as what somebody's fundamental beliefs are. And I guess you could go as deep as you want in that. Maybe it's religious. I don't know. But
you can, yes.
A lot of this is up for interpretation. And certainly, I never thought of it until you brought it up. Race, we all connected, many of us, with what somebody's ethnic background is, what country they're from, all of that.
Right.
Is there any place for the word race?
Well, other countries handle it in a different way. I can go to most of the countries in Central and South America, and I'm no longer the racial category I'm assigned in the United States. United States categories are based on the United Kingdom systems of identifying race. In where I spent some time in Nicaragua, back about 20 years ago on a university mission down there. And I was asked by the woman who was assigned to be my interpreter, because the main language is Spanish, and I was not Spanish fluent. And she asked the professor from Lincoln University, where I was the provost, is he all right? Can we trust him? Because he did not look like whatever and whatever. People look all kinds of ways in Central America. They have all kinds of backgrounds from Spain, from Italy, from West Africa, from Europe, from the United States. So this was interesting. And the professor said, oh, yes, he's all right. He's one of us. He's one of you. And the woman had an official category used in Nicaragua that she was a mulatto. That was her government category. And I looked more like a mulatto and maybe a mestizo, which is part Indian and part Spanish. And then I saw very, very black appearing featured men and women with very black straight hair who were from the Indian group, but they were also mixed with the people from West Africa. So there I was amidst this collage, this panoply of people of different colors and hair types. And I was there to talk about healing, traditional healing. And my remarks were interpreted to the people so they could understand what I was saying and I could understand what they were saying. But it is something the United States needs to consider, is how other people around the world consider certain categories of appearance. Or do we need to leave the category of appearance except to appreciate it and say, oh, what an interesting appearance someone has, and really enjoy it and applaud it?
Where do you think we went wrong in all of this? And these categories, what happened?
That's the question, and I'm so glad you asked it. It's the relevant question. Slavery. That's where we went wrong. Slavery was a capitalist enterprise based upon skin color and ownership of an individual by another group of individuals who looked different. That's what happened.
Wow.
And we still haven't undone it. We still are in the same fix of it was slavery. And slavery was a very unfriendly process that kept people owned and in bondage by a majority power group. Ethnicity at least makes a little more sense. It is based on appearance, but it's not the same as race, where in the United States, race, the white race, is defined as what it is not, namely black or brown or yellow or red, but certainly not white. It's very strange because it introduces us to a dualism that is very conflicted. How does that make you feel, Stephen?
Quite honestly, I'm offended by that word race. It's even asked on some, you go to a new doctor and there's an intake form and you have to check off a box. What race are you?
I worked at a company in Silicon Valley in the 1980s, and talking to one of my colleagues in that company, we happened to be talking about race and how the United States classifies, and she was from Egypt, but from one of the more minority groups of Egypt, because Egypt is an Arab majority nation since 700 AD. But she was not from that group. And so when she would go do her official filings as an immigrant in the United States, and they'd ask, what race are you? Well, it wasn't that simple. They would check the box for white, because in America, that's what she looked like. She was a group in Egypt that had been there longer, way back to the pharaohs. And they were part of African groups, but they were more related to the Ethiopian groups that could vary in color from actual white complexion to dark complexion. And she was adamant when they put white. I'm not white. I am African. That was how she regarded herself, as an Egyptian. I am African, which confuses the heck out of the Office Bureau people in the United States, which is in charge of checking the box for your race. I thought that was one of the most interesting, humorous things I'd ever heard.
Well, I want to read the definition of race because I just Googled it. AI provided the answer. Race, while often perceived as a biological category, is primarily a social construct used to categorize people based on, here's that word again, perceived shared physical traits and ancestry. So race, according to this definition, and I believe it's true in terms of how we view it or perceive it, it's all about perception. There's no fact. There's no, it's a construct based on perception.
That's exactly what I used to teach at San Francisco State University in the 1990s about race. That was the only rational definition that we had.
Wow.
And it's still rational. And it's well worded. And I did ask at a faculty conference at San Francisco State, one beginning conference retreat to get the year started. And I asked the audience, 60 people in my particular focus group, can you, all of you in here, can you as individuals feel you can live without race, that you can get through your life from now on without a race label? It caused a great deal of consternation to even be asked, because people honestly, mostly said, no, I think that would be very difficult for me to do that because I'm so inured to what I've been using and what I've been told I am, but what my family says we are, what the government says we are. And that was really telling. And I appreciated everyone contributing to that conversation.
We're just about out of time. I want to ask a question, 20 seconds in the answer. Here we go. We're talking about change today and centered back on race. You're moving. Big change. Fear is connected to change. Have you encountered in your mind some fear in your change, in your move? Has there been some there along the way?
Slightly, maybe just a small fraction of a percent, just a slight fear, if I'm honest, of the unknown that lies ahead. But I've changed so much in the country. I have moved so many times. To me, it's like a hit of excitement, like taking a mind-altering substance.
I love the way you said like a hit of excitement. I want to use that in the future because that is, I got it. Like a dopamine. Like this is going to be exciting. It's a change. It's a change. It's exciting, and probably I've changed my view on a lot of this kind of stuff where it doesn't bother me so much anymore. Fear, change, all of that. And I would think, what would be the fear? Logistics. Depending on other people, the moving company, are they going to be there on time? Are they going to be, all of that? That would be,
All that, yeah. Well, I've learned how to not let fear run my life, and that's a big advantage to have.
It really is.
Fear can be utilized to command your behavior just by throwing more fear into the fire. And I don't fear.
I appreciate your honesty on that. and transparency and everything we talked about today. Interesting. It's got, I walk away with other thoughts now in terms of what we've been conditioned to believe, accept in terms of race and all of that, and appreciate it. Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown. Do I have that title right, your memoir?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Google
starting
it.
to get out there.
It's a fascinating look at your life, and like the things that we're talking about today will make you think. Grant, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you, Stephen.
And maybe next time we get together, you'll be live and direct from the other side of the country.
Yes. Yes.
Best of luck in your move. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.